Welcome to the weekly podcast dedicated to amazing people with incredible journeys. But how did they get there? Who were the characters that impacted their stories? And how are they paying it forward now? Sit back and be inspired to go out and make a difference in the origin stories of the people you know, and even some that you don't. Welcome to the prequel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Prequel Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azalina, and I'm so excited to have you here with me for another amazing origin story. We have an incredible guest here this evening, and before we get to him, I just wanted to welcome anybody new listening. This show has been a passion project of mine, and I'm very excited to bring it to people week after week. And the reason why I love this show so much is because it weaves the stories of others into our lives, and we come across so many people throughout our lives that, you know, we kind of forget that they all impact us in some way. Sometimes it's a positive impact, sometimes it's not such a positive impact, but no matter what, we still learn from it. And that's my goal in this podcast, is to bring you stories of inspiration on, you know, how to go about your life, how to treat others, how to inspire others, how to impact, just how to go about it. You know, I learn from every conversation I have, and I want to make sure that I give people that same opportunity. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. But before we do, I actually have a story, if you don't mind me sharing with you. Today I was at a school for the first time in a while, and I was there to kind of shadow coach a little bit and learn from someone who's been doing it for a while in the role that I'm in. So there were two other coaches there and myself, so three of us in all, and they had planned to do a fire drill at the school. They did not plan for there to be three students in the nurse's office right away, so they had a substitute nurse and asked if we would be willing to help her in getting the students outside. Of course, and I was very excited about this because I do miss seeing students every day. So I went into the nurse's office, and a little kindergarten friend came up to me and put his hand up for me to hold. So I held his hand, and I said, I'm so glad that we're going to be walking out together. And he looked very nervous. He had his ears covered because of the alarm, and one hand in mine and the other covering his ear and in his shoulder, with his book bag wrapped around him. And we went outside, and we started talking, and I asked him, saw Spider-Man shoes and asked him if that's his favorite superhero. And he said, no, it's Sonic. And, very clearly I should have known. He had a Sonic hat, Sonic book bag, Sonic gloves on. Should have known that. Like, get with it, Mike. But we talked a little bit about Sonic and how I used to play the game when I was a kid. And then we talked about his favorite subjects in school. And he told me crafts. He was very matter of fact that he likes crafts. Does not like math, but really enjoys reading. So, man after my own heart, crafts and reading. I'm into it. It's awesome. So we went back inside after the drill was over, and I walked him back to the nurse's office, and I thanked him for hanging out with me. And he said, well, I'd like to say thank you too. I was really nervous, and I appreciated talking with you. And I said, you know what, buddy? That made my day. And I tell you this because he made mine too. And I think sometimes a simple conversation that lasts all of 5 minutes can be the difference in somebody's day. It becomes part of our story. And then we can share that with others. He changed my day. I was nervous. I was not sure what I was walking into. And he made me comfortable being back in a school. Being with a student made me very comfortable. And he had expressed being nervous. And it was very clear he was nervous. So our interaction, we helped one another. So I tell you this because I want you to think about the interactions that you have with people. They can help the person sitting across from you as much as they can help you, or they can be a detriment. If we would have just walked out in silence, I don't know that I would have helped his nerves, and I don't think mine would have been helped either. And I know he's only 5-6 years old, and he probably has no idea how much he helped me. But my man, you did. That being said, I hope this story helps each and every one of you. The one that you're about to listen to is one of inspiration. I feel very honored to know Wyatt. He was an incredible athlete, track and field athlete in college. And he's continued to do such amazing things as he's left college a ton of Tough Mudders that we'll talk about in our episode together. He's involved in American Ninja Warrior. Like, he's done relays, all these like different things that, you know, I don't think I could do anymore, but he is still doing amazingly. And then his prequel was a little bit derailed and set on a different path. And I'm going to let him tell that story because it's his to tell. But it's such a story of inspiration. And I'm so honored to know him. And I listened to his story, and I'm so excited for you to do the same. So I'm going to get out of the way. And without further ado, my conversation with Mr. Wyatt Eaton. Enjoy, everybody. All right, Prequel Nation, I am joined by a fellow Elizabethtown College Blue Jay, a fellow Eagle fan close to my heart, and the athletic communications assistant at Elizabethtown College, a 27-time participant in Tough Mudder, an American Ninja Warrior known as Flash. The shirt says it all, right? And currently, this man is out running cancer. We are joined by Wyatt Eaton. Wyatt, my friend, welcome to the Prequel.
Hazzy, dude, I'm so pumped to be here. I appreciate the invite, and look forward to talking to you, man.
As I read that list, I feel like the first question I have to ask you is there anything that you don't do?
Yeah, sit down and relax. That's probably the only thing I don't do.
So I think for our listeners, what's really cool about, you know, the way that Wyatt and I have kind of grown our own friendship is we went to college around the same time. Wyatt, I think you were a couple years behind.
2010.
So you were a year behind me.
Yeah.
And we saw each other on campus. We interacted, but it wasn't until after college that you and I started to really bond over the Eagles. So like we've kind of become each other's story and support with the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
For sure. And we needed to.
Yes. We had one great year, and then this year it was a lot of, oh man, what just happened?
So close.
So close. so
Yes.
close. So close. But it's really been a pleasure for me to have a chance to build, one another's story. And as I watch you right now and doing what you're doing with the fight that you have, I just want to say that I'm very proud to know you and watch your journey. So I just wanted to say that right up front to you, that you're truly an inspiration, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right in. And I asked this question right up front because this podcast is a podcast about stories, right? And how our stories impact the people that we meet, right? And their stories impact us. So I always ask the question right up front because my grandfather was such a storyteller, and that's who made me understand that stories and people's stories matter. So Wyatt, I got to ask you, did you have a family member or maybe a friend as you were growing up who was this fantastic storyteller that just you could not stop listening? They hooked you in and you were in.
Yeah, it's much like yourself. My pap, my mom's dad, he just had the most amazing stories, and he'd tell them all the time, and it was never really the same one. It was always something different. And I never, we didn't get to see him a whole lot. So when we did, at family gatherings, maybe once or twice a year, that's when you got your story time, and you just be sitting there listening, and they're always great. Some of them are just smaller stories. Some of them are from a long time ago. Some of them are recent. And unfortunately he's no longer with us, but those stories live on, man. And and sometimes they just pop into your head just because you see something or think of something, and it just reminds you of Pap and just something he told you. And he was the storyteller, and we miss him a lot.
Yeah, I very similarly, there are times where I'll be out and about, or someone will say something, and immediately my grandfather is triggered into my memory. And very similarly, he had a very certain way of telling a story, that he wasn't, super emotional in storytelling, but he was capturing. And every story he had a purpose. Like it was never just, well, let me tell you this story, and then you're like, what does this mean? There was always purpose behind it. Did you feel that way about your Pap?
Oh, for sure. And you always feel like you took something away from any one of his stories.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are really funny, some of them are really serious, but there's just always something about it that you take something away from it.
Right. Do you have any that kind of stick in your mind as like, wow, like this story made the impact, or this is one that I carry with me, and this is one I want to tell my own kids or my own grandkids?
Maybe not necessarily. It's just the way my pap was.
Yeah.
You know, he scrapped and he jumped. You know, just a blue collar kind of guy. You know, hard hat and pail. Like, just did his route every single day. He had, you know, a lot of health issues, but still did his thing. You know, it never stopped him. He'd have people along the way that would help him. You know, the guys at the junkyard would take it out and do it for him. You know, he'd go and sit down, get his cup of joe, his cup of coffee, and you know, the guys would take care of him. They knew who he was. You know, he was Uncle Mike to everybody. So not necessarily like singular stories, but just, you know, just his grit and determination, and he just kept going no matter like how beaten down he was or may have seemed. You know, he was the little engine that could. He just kept going no matter what. And that's what I always take away from Pat.
Yeah, which is kind of like that's his story, right? His story is defined by those things, and it's a lesson in and of itself. And I think it's something that you're living out right now. You're through everything you've done. You know, I listed all of these things that you've done. Why I have never run or thought of running one Tough Mudder in my life. Like
not many do. You have to be
right.
a certain kind of crazy.
But you have to have that grit, and you have to have that determination that you learned from your grandfather. So would you say that he is someone who has impacted you, guided you toward that that part of your life? Have there been other people who have, you know, sort of pushed you in that direction of doing those Tough Mudders, of participating in that many?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that have impacted me positively throughout the years. You know, of course, my pap being one of them, and I would be remiss if I did not mention my parents. You know, you can't thank my mom and dad enough. You know, that's where I get everything that I am is from them, and of course, you know, mom from her dad, and just you know, she's battling some back stuff, and you know, same way she keeps going. You know, it's not, you know, sit down, woe is me, I'm gonna take a day off. Like, I don't know, she runs on like Energizer batteries. She just keeps going and going, you know, no matter what. And the first ever Tough Mudder I did was the year after I graduated. It was the third ever Tough Mudder in 2011, and it was my old teammates, you know, Kevin Clark, Chelsea Miles. Names you'll recognize. And it was a group of like 7 or 8 of us that did the third ever one in New Jersey. That's how I got started. That was my first ever Tough Mudder. It was freezing cold. It was like 40 degrees. We had to like swim across this lake. I couldn't feel my ears for hours. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was so cold. And like at that point, like I didn't have any muscle on me, so I was freezing. I was so miserable. And for whatever reason, I've done another 26 since then, and you know, pay a couple $100 to get electrocuted and climb through barbed wire and all that fun stuff. But yeah, man, I feel like I've weaved so many different webs just in life, and just the relationships that I've built, you know, between, you know, my college teammates at E-Town, my roommates at E-Town, just, you know, different groups there. And then, you know, I interned with NFL Films after I graduated. You know, I roomed with somebody from Indiana and Illinois and Louisiana and New York, and one of our other good friends was from Michigan. So I just the experience of 6 months interning there with them, and like during college I worked at Hershey Park, you know, and they had this international program, so I met Ukrainians and Colombians and, you know, from China. So I've, you know, built all these different relationships, and not just within the country, but these people live all over the world. So it's you know, sitting here just thinking about it now, it's almost overwhelming. The relationships that I have, I'm very fortunate to have, you know, made so many. And like for me, I'm an introvert, so it's difficult to meet new people right away. And that's kind of been the great thing about a lot of the things that I do between sports and Ninja and the Ragnar Trail relays that I do, and, you know, Tough Mudders, I've been able to meet so many different people because we have these same values and just what we like to do and just commonalities that it's easy to bond over. And again, like for us, the birds, man, we can bond over the birds. So it's finding those commonalities within these relationships and just building off of that. And yeah, I have a lot of people I could thank, and I'd be upset if I left somebody out.
Right.
But yeah, it's awesome.
You mentioned the introvert, and if you don't mind me, I'm going to pull something up on my phone that I just saw tonight because I was with some people that I just started working with, and we had a conversation about being introverted or extroverted, and they were all surprised when I said that I'm an introvert, and they're like, "You don't seem like you would be one." And why I'd say the same to you, but here's the quote that I read tonight, and I think it's a pretty powerful one. I used to think I was introverted because I really liked being alone. It turns out I just like being at peace, and I'm very extroverted around people that bring me peace.
I would absolutely agree with that. I am, because like E-Town, I would go eat breakfast by myself. Yeah, for the most part. There were a couple of times I would have breakfast with Paige Tanner, Paige Weber. Yeah. But for the most part, I'd go and eat by myself. And like even now, like sometimes I'll just go to the movies and go watch, like the newest Marvel movie or something by myself. And, people ask me like, well, or they feel bad or like think, well, why didn't you invite me? And like, to me, I don't think anything of it because it's just what I want to do. It's sometimes I just like my alone time and that's a great way to put it. I would have never thought of it that way. But yeah, when I'm with my friends, like, I'm not just this quiet, shy, introverted guy. Like, not to say I'm the life of the party. I'm, having fun and laughing and talking, and that's just that. It's a great way to put it. Wow, that's an awesome.
And it's not. I'm not going to take credit for it, right? But it was someone just posted
really
it. I was like, wow, this is something. I never really thought of it that way. I love what you said about the relationships that you've built and all of the people that you've come in contact with, because I feel like relationship is really what makes us thrive in this world, this society, the people that we can learn from, lean on. And you mentioned so many people. You mentioned people that you met internationally at Hershey, at your NFL Films job from all across the country, now in your role at E-Town, your time in college. Would you say that there was something that you learned from each of these people, some way that they impacted you? Would you say that that's fair to say, even if it wasn't in a great way, Wyatt? Like, even if it was, I don't want to treat people that way. Would you say that you've learned something from everybody that you've come across?
Absolutely. And I mean, sometimes it's the same thing from everybody. Sometimes it's just little pieces of something different. Because everybody has a different background. Everybody's going through something different. Everybody has their own story that they're telling. So, I mean, you're learning a lot about these people as you get to know them more and more and more. And yeah, it has a cumulative effect on you. And, like for me, I really work to surround myself with people that inspire me and bring me energy rather than, the other way around where I feel tired after I'm with them, or, you know what I mean? It's just, you really start to learn that, especially, as you get older, you get out of college and, you get into the real world and, you start building those adult relationships. And that's really what you find is you want to be with the people that inspire you and just really fill your cup rather than, empty it. And I feel like I've done a really, really great job with that. And like, I love the friendships that I have and the relationships that I've built. And, those are the ones that I really strive to maintain. I really work to stay, connected to them. And that's the great thing about social media is I can at least stay connected, at least partly. It doesn't mean I always talk to them or they talk to me, but whenever you need them, they're there. You can reach out, you can say hi. They've absolutely impacted me for sure.
I usually ask the question, what experiences have impacted you and guided you along your journey? Clearly you've done a lot. And we've talked a little bit about some of those things, but I want to get into the experience that you're going through right now, Wyatt. And I'm going to let you talk us through what got you to this point, what led you here, how that, if you're comfortable, how that news was delivered to you, and what the journey's been like since then, and then move from that point. Because obviously what you're going through right now is an experience that's going to mold you in a different way than you would have ever anticipated. So I'm going to leave the floor to you and walk us through what happened and where you're at, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. So I know as Mike brought me in, I've been pretty much an athlete all my life. I've done all these wild and crazy things. After college, I ran track in college. And since graduation, I'm still competing, still work out, still train. I do all these different kinds of races. So it was about this past December, I noticed just a smaller lump in my neck, pretty small, like wasn't big or wasn't sticking out, but didn't think much of it because it wasn't bothering me. It wasn't keeping me from doing anything. So I thought I'd give it a little bit just to see if it, healed itself, went away. I thought it's just like a swollen gland or something. So fast forward a couple weeks, and there was a growth in my neck, and it had gotten fairly big. And I had talked to my mom, just like, I think I should probably get this checked. And she's like, yeah, you should probably go get that checked. So this was January 4th. That was a Wednesday because I was supposed to go into work. We had men's basketball that night. I was supposed to work. I went to urgent care around like 10:30 and thought, maybe just a couple hours, might take a little bit just to get scans or whatever they would need to do to determine what it was. I met with one of the PAs in there, probably about half an hour or so, and she immediately sent me to the York Hospital ER, and I spent 8 hours there. I got some blood work done, and then eventually got a CT scan done, just to kind of see what it is. And in the meantime, I had plenty of waiting time. There are people in a lot worse condition than I was in. So like the waiting was fine. I was not in any pain. I just kind of wait my turn. And that kind of just was what it was. In the meantime, I had two doctors come by and just like examined, because this thing was like pretty big. It was almost like I had an egg in my neck.
Oh wow!
Like
okay.
right at the base of my collarbone. So they'd come and checked it out, and they said based on the size and like the location of it that it could be, like a lymphoma or leukemia issue. Now that wasn't their diagnosis. They said that's what they thought it could be based on those things. The CT scan would really reveal what it was. So I got the CT scan done. I got home like 8:30 that night. I think by the next day I had results. One of the doctors had talked to another doctor at Cancer Care Associates of York. That doctor, that's Dr. Joyce, had called me the following day to let me know that it was indeed lymphoma, and then pretty much got me scheduled for a biopsy right away. So that following Monday, got my biopsy done. They determined, it's stage 2 nodular sclerosis type Hodgkin's lymphoma, which fortunately means it is the most curable type, the most curable form of Hodgkin's. So that was, cancer's scary. It doesn't matter what it is, where it is, stage, cancer's scary. But, hearing that, that it was the most curable form, and just like the confidence in her voice and just how she spoke about it, it didn't put me on edge. It really took that anxiety away. So I knew I was going to be in for a fight, but I felt more confident about it. So then, just doctor's visits and blood work and, needles in the arm. And I got my port placement January 20th. Then we started, I met with a chemo nurse. We talked about chemo and, the specific regimen. So started that early February. And at this point, I'm 4 treatments in. I just had my follow-up appointment with Cancer Care on Tuesday. I had another set of PET scans done last week just to kind of like see how everything was looking through 4 treatments, which fortunately my body's responded super well.
That's great.
The mass of my neck is down. It's severely reduced in size. I had like 3 other problem areas in my chest and like lung area, which are back within normal range, which is obviously a great sign. Now I do have to finish out my 6 total cycles of treatment, so it'll be 12 total. So I still have 8 more to go, 4 months worth of treatments. And I just met with radiology oncology today, and it sounds like I'll be recommended for some low dosage radiation treatment once chemo is over, just to kind of eliminate the possibility of recurrence.
Gotcha.
So, obviously those benefits far outweigh the risks of, having to kind of do it all over again. So yeah, for me, to go from like this athlete super high, like just, I take care of myself. I, eat well for the most part. I just did the 24-hour Tough Mudder back in November. I did 40 miles in 24 hours, and then 2 months later I get hit with a lymphoma diagnosis. So it's like this high of high to low of low, and it's just obviously something I never expected, and really have just worked to take it all in stride and not focus on the negative of it. I guess my thought process has really been, I'm going to be expending energy, so I might as well just make it positive, and not let it be negative. I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't missed a day of work. I haven't had to put in for, off days. Fortunately, athletic director and everybody in the hallway has been super supportive. They're there for me when I need it. People have had to step up and kind of take my place at times. I've been around, but I can't. It's really affected like my brain processing, and just, and with sports, like some of these things happen so quickly. It's just between brain and like typing stuff in, I do the stats for home events. It makes it a lot tougher. So I'm super, super grateful for everybody at the college for how they've helped me through this. And yeah, the finish line is a little bit further away than I would like it to be. But I'm just treating this like another obstacle, like another opponent. And, we'll get there just in due time.
Like another Tough Mudder, Wyatt. And
yeah,
you ran 27 of them.
Yeah, it really is. My mindset, it's just another obstacle. It's a bigger, scarier one than anything I've ever dealt with. But it's one I'll get over.
And you mentioned a lot of people along the way. You mentioned the doctors. You mentioned your mother. You mentioned the people at E-Town. I'm sure there are plenty more people standing in your corner, so much so that, you need a third, fourth, fifth ring of corners to, name them all. And I don't know that you need to name them all, but are there other people who have really impacted you throughout this process that, I watch you on social media, you're still doing your workouts, you're still active, you're still pushing yourself. So is there wind at your sails right now, or is it you in your head saying keep going? Is it a combination of both? What is it?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of both. I think one of the things I pride myself in and think I'm pretty good about is just mental fortitude and just being mentally tough. But there are days, I've had plenty of down days, and that's where I rely on my support people. Obviously my parents have been there through every single step. They go with me to my appointments. They drop me off and pick me up from treatment days, and just the people at the office. Casey McGarvey. He was our former SID. He's now stepped into a facilities and operations role. He's filled in for me. This spring. He had to do basketball that night. The initial night I went in for just to get checked out. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, it was like noon, and I was getting ready to head to the hospital. And I texted him like, "Hey, buddy, just letting you know you might have to step in for basketball tonight because I don't know how long this is going to be. They're sending me to the hospital." Our women's soccer coach Amy Huff, these stinkers, they did this t-shirt sale at school, and I came in one morning, and of course I was going up to the gym. And one of the women's soccer players had it on, and I don't think they realized I was going to be there. So I thought it was just like a women's soccer thing, maybe like a little fundraiser for them, just in support of me, which was awesome. And then, throughout the day, I saw I saw a wrestler with it, and then a men's lacrosse player with it, and then a wrestling coach had it. Wow. So then I finally put two and two together. Again, my brain processing has been a little lacking lately, but they had done a whole like student athlete, just department-wide t-shirt sale. So there were hundreds of these shirts around, and then staff had it. So like I've never cried more in a day in my life than, like every time I saw a shirt, it set me off because I was just overwhelmed with the support because this is something I never expected, didn't ask for. And then on top of it, they gave me the money that they raised through it. They freaking gave it to me.
Wow.
So, which paid for one of my appointments, which, it's crazy because more in the last 2 months, I've seen more doctors and, like needles and all that stuff more than 35 years of my life. It's been more in the last 2 months. So just insanely appreciative of everybody. Veronica Nolt is our women's basketball coach. She's my hallway mom. She's my work mom. She checks in on me all the time, just make sure I'm okay and asks if I need anything. Amanda Gretz is our director of athletic communication. She's had to shoulder a big load, a ton of stuff, with me being down and not always in the office. So she's taken on a ton, and just been extremely understanding and supportive. I feel terrible because it's more than any of us need to deal with, especially in the spring when we're at our busiest. But, there have been no complaints. Everybody's just told me, take the time that you need, like stay home, stop coming in. I can't say thank you enough. I'm going to wear that word out really quickly.
I don't know that you have to feel that way, man. I think a lot of times what I hear in this story is this lesson of rallying around people that you care about and letting them know that they're behind you, that wind in your sails. You're on a bigger scale going through it right now. You said it, this is the scariest opponent you've ever had. And people want to help you beat that opponent. They want to stand by your side. And I think it's a great lesson for all of us to learn. We don't know, you said this earlier, we don't always know everybody's story, but when we do, and there's something we can do about it, to help, then, those people are going to step up to help. And what an amazing way to show their support to you. I didn't know that story. I had no idea.
Yeah. It just happened. And like, I'd be one of the ones like in their position trying to figure out how to do something for them. That's usually me. So to be on the other end of it is, it's just, extremely grateful for the people that I get to work with and get to call my colleagues and ultimately friends. Just on an everyday basis. They've been awesome. And I can't thank them enough.
Right.
And we're doing a Tough Mudder on May 21st.
Are you? Wow.
Yes. Cancer will not stop me from enjoying a Mudder. It's not going to be fast,
it is, people.
But I'm just going to show up. I'm going to get through it. They're going to help me. They're going to have to drag me. They're going to have to make sure I don't drown. But it'll be one finish line. I'll be extremely thankful to cross sooner than later. I'm just looking forward to it. I literally signed up for all my Mudders that I wanted to do this year the week before this all happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was supposed to do a double Mudder that same weekend. The one I'm not going to be able to do because was trying to do up to like 50K on that Saturday. That Sunday morning is just a 5K. So I'm just going to have to own up to it and just like let that one go and just deal with the 5K. And it's not easy, but...
So let this be a lesson to everybody listening that there's just not an excuse in the world to do the things that you're meant to do. There's just not. And I think when you're writing your own story, it's really easy to put the pen down and say, this is where the chapter ends because I don't have the energy to fight it. But let this be the moment where you pause this podcast and think about that thing that is holding you back from doing what you want to do. Because I think what Wyatt is saying to us right now puts it all into perspective. Nothing should stop us. Like we're listening to a man who's going through treatment for cancer and who's fought this battle and now he's going to run a Tough Mudder in May. So don't let those little impediments in your life stop you from doing the things that you want to do. And I appreciate you bringing that lesson to us, Wyatt. I really do. So you mentioned before, you have this Mudder coming up, right? And you mentioned how all of these people have supported you and you can't thank them enough. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of push you a little bit here. And I'm going to say, once you cross this finish line, and I know it seems further away than you wish it were, what's next for Wyatt? Like, what's the pay it forward? What's the next goal? Whatever you have in line after this, what are you going to do to continue your journey and your story? Because this is just the prequel.
Yeah, So I have some Mudders that are a little bit further away.
Good.
I have the 12-hour overnight in September that I'm looking forward to. That's how I qualified for World's Toughest last year, and I did sign up for World's Toughest again in November. So the goal still is to be able to qualify as a contender. And we'll see how September goes. We'll see how these next 4 months go. Just what kind of shape I'm in, and just what it's going to take to get to where I want to be. But the goal is to still compete. I paid a couple $100s for these things, so I'd rather be able to do it. And obviously the goal is just for my feet to hit the floor every morning. Just be thankful I'm still here, because there are a lot of people with cancer that they don't get to say that. And obviously my focus is to do what I can for myself. And I feel like I've put this burden on myself to be strong for everybody else, especially for my parents, because I can't imagine being a mother and a father, and your son gets diagnosed with lymphoma, with cancer, and so I've tried to be strong for them, strong for my brother and sister, for all my friends, everybody that's taking care of me. I feel like I'm also trying to take care of them in a sense. Just trying to be strong for them, and just let them know that I'm still here, I'm still fighting. I'm gonna fight with everything that I have. Prognosis is good, things are looking good for myself, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I have something in here that's trying to take me out. And it's just every day is a fight, but fortunately for myself, it's one that I'm winning, and I share it with everybody. It's one that we're winning. So yeah, my goals haven't changed. I'm still preparing like I'm going to do everything I wanted to do. That it's just not going to change. It's just who I am. I'm too competitive. There will be times where I'm going to need to take my foot off the gas and just have the proper perspective for myself, and just realize my body needs some time to. And I've run into that already, where if I'm not hitting the weights that I want to hit, or if I don't feel like I want to feel, but sometimes I need that reminder that it's okay. You can't always be flash. You've got to slow down and maybe be a little normal for a second. Go at some normal speeds for a little bit. So that's why I need that support, because I need that reminder.
Yeah, I think that giving yourself the grace to take your foot off the pedal and know that it's so that you can continue down the road on the journey that you want to continue on. And I think one thing that I feel you're doing right now is inspiring. While you're trying to protect people and keep them at bay and feeling confident about your fight, you're inspiring them through what you're doing, and you'll continue to inspire people when you get to tell this story in a Tough Mudder in 2027, or when you do run American Ninja Warrior when it rolls back around. This story is going to inspire so many, and you're going to impact so many people through this. So that leads me to sort of my final question, that I think is something that I think you've given us a lot already, but if you could pinpoint advice for people working through their own prequel as you're still working through yours, because once you've crossed that finish line, this is part of that, and it's only made you a stronger person through that, and has motivated you and inspired others. But what would you tell someone else going through a similar prequel, or just starting the journey that you're moving through right now? Or their own challenges? What would your advice be?
Yeah, and this is something that so 7 years ago, I was kind of in a spot. I was unhappy with some things, and more of like a physical. It was before I had really added on the muscle that I have. I was just really struggling in the gym. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, and I was just looking for an answer. And a friend had reached out to me and really changed a lot of things for me. And that's where I really had this thought was, if you change nothing, nothing changes. I had to do something different. You know, if I kept doing the same thing, I wasn't going to get different results. So I had to make a change. I made a change. It changed a lot of things for me. And, I've gotten to where I wanted to get. And through that, I've made a ton more friendships, evolved a lot of different relationships over the years. And it just really came down to that simple thought, without challenge or without change, you can't grow. And without growth, I mean, it's in my mindset, like, how do you experience life, if you don't grow and, just want to get better and want to, just leave the world a better place. You hear the term YOLO, and you laugh. It's kind of like this funny thing, but it like when you break it down, you only live once. It's so true. You only have one life, and like for me, it's like I only have one life. I only have one body to take care of. It's life is for living. Life is for experiencing. Life is for enjoying, and it's obviously has taken on a whole new meaning now. With the cancer diagnosis, but even just years ago, I would always get so caught up in money and not wanting to spend money, and my friend Caitlin asked me to go on this trip to California to run my very first Ragnar Trail relay race, and it was a conversation with my mom, and she said, "Go do it." Yeah. And that was 2015, and ever since then, I've done a bunch of traveling, usually in combination with running, and for these Ragnar Trail relays. And it really changed and shaped my perspective going forward, and just really living and experiencing. Not so much about things, but just the experiences of life. It's so enriching because I've been to so many awesome places. I've met so many awesome people through just one decision and like just one thought. That's for me. It's what it boils down to. Is just if you change nothing, nothing changes.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And I think, even just the idea of being stuck and, stuck in that story, that moment and not being able to push through it. Well, how do we get out of it? There's something that has to change, and to push yourself through it, you got to recognize what that may be. It may be a relationship in your life that you have to move on from. It may be your own habits. It may be you're neglecting your own needs. Whatever that is, whatever you're stuck in. I love that phrase. I wrote it down. That's going to stick with me for a long time. If you don't change nothing, nothing changes. And that's powerful. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your entire story, man. And I know I speak on behalf of everybody listening when we're rooting for you. Like, we are rooting for you. I'm very closely following your journey, and I mean it when I say I'm damn proud to know you. And I wish you nothing but the best, and I thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, man. This was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Great. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me. I was pumped to hop on, and I was looking forward to Wednesday night. It's a great conversation. I appreciate it and love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. And certainly we're going to continue to root for you on this journey. And hopefully when, you cross that finish line, let's retouch and do a follow-up episode so everybody can hear how everything went. Does that sound good? Awesome, sure. Man. Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Wyatt. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Azzy. Go Birds.
So, wow. Wow. I have so many thoughts about this conversation, and it starts with just how when life throws you these curveballs, right? Curveballs that take you off the path that you really want to be on. Wyatt talked about how he has spent most of his life as an athlete, and all of a sudden that was, there was something trying to take that from him. And there are moments where it has taken that away. But what I really took away from his points and conversation tonight was that he refuses to let that happen. He knows that there are times he has to pull back. and check himself. But when he talked about running that mutter in May, I know I stopped the conversation and basically made the point of there's no excuse. We don't end the chapter because something else tells us to. We end the chapter because we're ready to. We end it because we're ready to move on to the next thing. Not because we failed or we stopped or something got in our way. That's not the end. That's someone else's end. Our end is when we say we're done, when we've reached the goal. And I so admire his ability to do that and what he's doing in this next phase. He's still going through treatments, yet he's going to involve himself in a Tough Mudder, and I can't wait to follow that part of his journey. A couple of other things that he spoke to. You know, I talk so much about story, and I talk about how our stories interweave with one another, but at the beginning of our conversation, he talked about everybody's going through their own thing. And we don't always know that story. And I think sometimes I leave that out. We come across so many people and we have so many conversations and we get stuck in our own stories that sometimes we don't always know what's going on over there. And I think, you know, that resonates so much with me because we're in the people business. A lot of the people listening to this are educators, and there are so many stories that you come across in a day. Your colleagues, the parents of your students, and they come with so many stories, and some we know and some we don't. Some we will and some we won't. And I think that is a true testament to Wyatt's point that it's important to realize the person sitting across from us may have a full plate. And how we present our own story and our own self could either add to that plate or maybe take some stuff off. So keep that in mind as you move throughout life and move throughout the next chapter. That as you're writing your own story, some people are maybe erasing things from theirs and adding to it. And do you want to be someone that they erase, or do you want to be someone that they highlight as they're telling their story? And I think one of the last things that I want to just talk about is his ending, his advice, which was, if you change nothing, nothing changes. And it's such a simple phrase, but it's so powerful. Again, you hit that roadblock, and instead of ending your story, you change something. And for some of us, it's really easy. I can tell you, for me, it's not. Because I want to do it the way that I set out to do it. You know, as I write my book right now, I'm reshifting the whole concept of it. And that's hard. But change nothing and nothing changes. Sometimes we have to look inward a little bit to reshape our own stories. And that can be difficult. Reflecting and finding, the things that we're not doing well is sometimes a challenge in and of itself. But at times, change is necessary to be able to thrive and to be able to succeed. It's like a checkpoint. It's not the end. But we can learn from the obstacle, from the mistake, and rewrite that part of the story. But we have to be willing to change. Wyatt, I can't say thank you. You talked about not saying thank you enough. I can't say thank you enough. You inspired me tonight. I'm wide awake now, so good luck going to sleep tonight. It's not happening. I'm wired. You've enlightened me. You've inspired me. Your story will forever guide me. Every time I think that I'm stuck, I'm going to think back to that phrase. Change nothing and nothing changes. And I'm going to remind myself to reflect and know think about what I have to do to change so that I can be successful. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. I want to remind you where you can find me on social media. And in the description of tonight's episode, I will put Wyatt's social media platforms so that you can follow his journey as well. You can follow me at Mike Azzolina on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook, just Mike Azalina. You can follow me on Instagram at AzalinaM. And you can follow me on TikTok at MikeAzalina5. And in my website, www.mikeazalina.com. If you want my blog or to find these, or if you're interested in having me come and speak to a group, I'm happy to do that and inspire through story. Of course, always through story. All right, everybody, please, 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 please go and continue writing your story. And along the way, maybe stop and help someone else. Write theirs for the positive as well. Know that you are loved and that you matter every single day, wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Much love, everybody.